Welcome, adventurers! It's Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I only get to say that one more time before we have daylight savings time, which is going to be really sad for me because I don't want to jump an hour ahead. All these people and all this stuff, and only one of our guests is here today. But all right, so yes, the one who didn't think he could make it. So there we go, or wasn't sure. But it's 5 p.m. on the West Coast, and we are live, waiting for James to get here. Welcome, adventurers. I'm your guide, Sean McZoo, and this is the Reptile Show reporter. As usual, no, not really. Bill Strand, the headmaster of Community Academy, is my co-host, but he's away. He asked for paid time off. I said I don't pay him, so I don't know how he could get PTO, but I gave him TO. I guess it's UPTO, unpaid time off. There we go. Tonight, we have a few guests. As you can see, Tom Arbor is there, Two Turtle Tom. We're waiting on James, the Fogfather Cross, to see if he can show up tonight, but we'll see. But now it's time for the video, so we're going to dance. Well, I should probably do something to James to see if he's around, huh?
Gotta poke him.
You can talk for a second here, if you don't mind, Tom. And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna poke him by text, I guess. Just every time I used to do this with Bill, he'd show up.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, he's here.
Okay.
I got him located. And there you go. There you are, James.
There he
Welcome
is.
to the party.
You know, there's nothing like trying to make it work when it doesn't work. Usually I can just push on your link and it pops right up. And for some reason this time I could not get it to work.
Wow, I can't even see over there. We already introduced everything, and
oh man, let me go turn the light on.
We were
forever late James Cross. He got delayed by Post Malone again, I guess. I was just telling Tom before we started, I didn't even know who Post Malone is. I still don't. I'm not going to look him up because I'm old and I don't need to know that kind of stuff. So
there we go. Now we got some light on the subject.
Oh, yeah.
All right, nice. There we go. Okay, we already did the video. We got to say hi to everybody, but let's go ahead and do that.
Okay.
All right. Tom, you want to help me with who's there? I see.
We've got Nate is here.
Nate is there. Okay.
Yep. And Mikey Ben is here.
Mikey Ben. I still don't have. I thought I had him in the Canadians, but I think when I changed, I didn't do that. Okay. Who else is here?
And Stephanie Payne.
All right.
My. Hello, Stephanie Payne, Mikey Ben.
All right. Who else? Anyone else?
Looks like Two Turtle Tom's here.
It admitted to being here. No one else is admitting to be here. But there appears to be several other people on here that aren't admitting to be here. But we'll just do what we can. All right, gentlemen. What should we talk about tonight? I just said reptile chat. Reptile talk.
Reptile fog.
Reptile fog. No, talk, not fog.
Oh.
I mean, fog is okay. You're the fog.
Yeah, I got fog on the brain.
Yes, I guess. All right.
So, this is the Reptile Show reporter, and I haven't been to the Reptile Show in a long time, but I finally figured out why.
Okay.
And that's because we now have a really, really close local pet shop that is locally owned that we go to all the time. Like literally I'm there like every 4 days. Okay. And so that's kind of become our hub. And I haven't had the need to go across. So we can sort of talk about the local store maybe. Let's talk.
Tom,
that could be one.
All right, we miss you. Hey, you know what? I forgot to ask. James, any announcements? Are you doing anything? Is there something going on in your life or you want to tell the world about?
I am doing some things. We're working on getting some, me and Bill got a little side project going, trying to work on some kind of stand and drainage system to bring to market. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently had to revamp a cage. My first cage I built was 7 years ago. and I used acrylic in the bottom of it, and don't do that. Mm-hmm. It has failed over time. And I noticed that it was leaking a little bit, but I didn't notice how bad until I started ripping it apart. So I'm changing it out to that polystyrene, and it's been a little bit of a chore because I didn't want to damage anything, and I ended up damaging things. And so lessons learned, put it back together with the polystyrene and the
you've been doing construction for so long, and you didn't know that you can't really not damage anything when you got to rip something out. You just got to go for it and let the chips fall where they may, man.
Yeah,
too long to do that.
Sometimes you're trying to save a buck, and you try not to do too much, but it's inevitable. It's like when you find dry rot in wood outside, it's a cancer. You got to follow it till it's done, and then you can chop it off and start new, and that's kind of what happened with this. As I was taking it apart, I kept finding more and more damage that I had to keep ripping out. So, but it's all back together, and I'll be taking on a female Parsons yellow lip here in a couple of weeks.
Cool. All right, Tom, besides the new pet store, which someone's asking me, which pet store are you talking about? This,
yep.
Let's see.
It's called Royal Union Pets in Talmadge, Ohio.
Pets.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're just they're three young guys, and they're trying to make a go of it.
Cool. What do they have there?
They have freshwater fish, they have saltwater, and they have reptiles.
Okay,
that's their union. Three people. One was a fresh person, one was a salt person, one was a reptile person, and they came together, started a shop. And about last summer, they moved to a really big place. They had this tiny little place, and so they're making it go. They're young. I try to give them pointers and things like that. They have chameleons. Mostly they'll buy wild caught, but they have the varicosis chameleon, Versifer varicosis. Right now they have a pair. And their female just laid 20 eggs. So they're incubating them, and we'll see. But I don't know anything about that species. I don't know if you guys have ever worked with it.
I had one for a while. Bill sent me one on its last legs to ride out. I guess he was out of space, and he sent me one. I rode it out for a couple years, but it was a male, and I couldn't find any others. So
I had one too back in the late 90s. It was mean as crap and very shy.
Mine was shy. It wasn't mean at all. It was just tremendously shy. And I guess since it was so shy, I don't even know if it was mean really. It was happy to be fed. So there you go. All right. So what else do they have, Tom?
They'll they don't have birds. They don't have cats or anything like that. So it's pretty much reptiles, the fish and salt. But they do sell baby turtles. Not exactly legal, but and tortoises, and they will take in a lot of animals and resell them. So it's a good place for people to take their snakes if they don't want them anymore. It kind of provides a service that way as well. They have no problem rehoming and kind of reselling animals that need homes. But yeah, they have a good mix of some captive bred stuff and several wild caught things that they're getting from Cold Blooded Shop. I don't know if you've heard of that place, but they have some high end imports. It's just a neat place. And they have plenty of space to have a lot of supplies and equipment and hardscape, wood, decor. If you need a Zoom Ed aerial skyscraper terrarium or something like that, they've got a bunch of that stuff in stock. So that's pretty cool.
Great. Okay. So they have dry goods. They have feeders.
They have tons of feeders, and usually when I'm in there, there's 2 or 3 people getting feeders. So full complement of stuff in their freezer. mice, live stuff too. Lots of stuff for fish and saltwater as well. They have this like lowboy aquarium, and they had these new banded archer fish, which are a brackish species of archer fish.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only, they had it in like a 6-inch aquarium, so very shallow, and they had a piece of wood in the center, and that wood stuck out of the water. So they were able to put crickets on the wood, and the archer fish started doing their thing, shooting the water. Yeah, so I thought that was super. I mean, that was just tonight we went there. And, so yeah, they're I don't know if they're making money, but they're giving it a go, and they'll admit probably they've made some mistakes here and there, and but it's just kind of neat to have a place to go and
sure
build a little bit of a community there.
So back in the 90s, when I was in saltwater fish before the turn of the century.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
In the 1900s.
Yes. Yes, a long time ago. Most saltwater fish that we got in were wild caught. And I had them actually shipping. I had somebody shipping them to me from the Philippines, and from, I guess he was out of the Philippines, but he had Australian reef fish and all this other stuff that was legal to ship in, and coral and stuff back then. But as I understand it, everything's gone to captive bred, and they're way ahead of us as well with lights and all this stuff.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of captive bred fish available now, but there's still a ton of wild caught fish.
Okay.
Yeah. My father-in-law was into saltwater fish, and he was a diver, and he literally captured his own.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
the one other thing that's huge now is coral. And I don't understand it, but they have these tanks full of these little discs with, 1,000 different polyps of coral that you can buy and collect. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's actually captive done as well, because
I think so. Yeah,
yes. And because they have those new lights now and all that other stuff that they never had before, back even 25 years ago, 30 years ago, you were on your own. You just had these, different things, and you had barely lights, but now they have so much more. And my brother's into it a little bit, so he's got such neat stuff. He's got a tank. It's only 5 gallons. You used to have the 125, 200 gallon tank in order to keep everything alive, to balance everything. But now it's such a art or science now, more than
nano reef tank
was.
Yeah.
It's a thing. So they dabble in that. I'll tell you, I need to be retired, I think, to get into saltwater, but maybe one day.
Yeah, I was into freshwater fish for a long time. I had, and then of course, being a typical guy, I had piranhas and macrodons, and I had a tank. I had, my bedroom was full of fish tanks, and that was before reptiles. But I just never took that leap into salt water because, first of all, the expense, and then it was just too much to learn. I thought, I tried it. I had a small tank with a couple tangs in it, and they never made it. So I kind of gave up. I figured I'd try small, and it was just too much for me to learn.
Yeah, I had a friend that had an importer, so it was dirt cheap for me to get it. It was like Christmas. We never knew what we'd get. It would just come, and he put it in there, and I don't know why. There wasn't. There was no. I mean, you quarantine it, but it's still crazy that you just put fish in with other fish, and you just kind of hope that everything went well. But we had saltwater eels and all kinds of different stuff. It's incredible stuff. I had a pair of Australian Clarkies for a while. They're just gorgeous. They're like they're a anemone living fish that is a little brown, a little orange, but really bright orange. It's just an incredible fish. But yeah. Anyway,
yeah, it's really sad to see the demise of this mom and pop pet store. San Fernando Valley had hundreds of them all over the place, and when I was dating my wife, and that's how we got into reptiles and doing all this stuff, is a good Saturday was to run around I would put 4 or 5 pet stores together, and we would go out for the day, have lunch, and hit every pet store to see what they had. Up here on the Central Coast, when I first moved here, we probably had 7 or 8 of them, and there are none left. We have 0 mom and pop shops. All we have is, Petco and PetSmart. They're fighting each other for domination, but there are no mom and pop shops up here anymore. It was always a dream of mine. I wish I could have done that back when I was younger. I always kind of wanted to open up a pet store, but then I got into construction and the money was too good.
I always wanted to open up a pet store as well, or even a pet rescue that would be different. But, I don't know. There's a great one by us, so I don't need to do that. So, yes, that's really neat. So let's see who else is here today. We've got Eliza.
Hi, Eliza.
Let's see, Eliza. Oh, well, we got Chris Zev Green's Reptiles, and we've got Eliza. And this is the better picture of her, or the crazy picture. And let's see. All right. Let's see. Tom, you're being asked. Oh, you said you never turned it. You ever leopard a leopard.
Yeah, leopard tortoises are not great for the Midwest and Ohio because they like really, really dry conditions. And we have hot in the summer, but it's really wet. And then in the winter, it's kind of hard to keep them inside and hot and dry. So it's not a real common tortoise as a pet in Ohio, but people definitely have them. But they're just a little too big to be convenient unless you can keep them outside a lot.
Hey, how's the weather there, you guys?
It got warmer. It's not freezing anymore.
It was like
melted.
55. It was 55 yesterday when I drove home
That's
from work.
Awesome. So we hit 80 today.
Oh.
80. That'll be
much too hot.
We were 55 last night, so our nighttime temperatures are comparable to your daytime.
Are warm for like 2 minutes. So what's a common Ohio tortoise to keep? I think, go ahead.
Redfoots, I think, are probably the best. Mm-hmm. And then the Russian tortoise is a pretty good one too.
So any of those European tortoises, like the other ones?
Testudo. Greek tortoises, Russian tortoises. Yep, all good choices. And then
what's the other one that's
a Redfoot?
There's an Eastern and a Western. Herman's tortoise.
Yeah. Those are good. They don't, they can tolerate cold. And yeah, that's a good species. I have a Greek tortoise that I keep outside from, maybe like May through middle of October. And
how many tortoises do you have, Tom?
A lot.
That's the answer for I don't want to say.
I didn't expect the Bill answer.
So
I count them in the dozens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More when it's baby season. But
do you sell them to pet stores, people? How does that work?
So if you've ever looked at fauna classifieds and looked at turtles, there's a website called turtlesandtortoises.com, which is owned by a guy named Jay Frewer. That's where if I have surplus that I need to sell, that's how I sell. I collaborate with him, and I give a lot away too. So people that are interested in working with the hinchback species that I work with, I right now I have 4 different species of hinchback tortoise, 1 species of Greek tortoise, and just one of that. And I have 3-toed box turtles. I have a group of 3-toed box turtles, and then I have a painted turtle. So even though I have dozens, I try to keep it real specific and put up breeding groups and specifically trying to reproduce as many hinchbacks as possible because they were the cheap tortoise. They were like the Senegal chameleon, chameleons, of tortoises. So that's what I specialize in. Oh, a lot. Eliza's saying, what's a painted turtle? So they're water turtles. They're aquatic, and they live in most of North America. But I don't know if it might be a little too high in Utah for them to be. But they even go up into Montana, so they can take cold. There's 4 different subspecies. They're a dark aquatic turtle with various stripes of yellow and red. So that's the painted turtle. Beautiful animals.
Yeah, Nate, if you want some tortoises, let me know. I got excess redfoots. They're all rescues, so the majority of them are all pyramided. So, yeah, I got them from a couple years old to 30, I think. But anyway,
yeah, that's how I got all my cicadas. They're all a rescue. There was a girl up on the hill that had several of them, and they just left them. So they ended up at my house.
Wow. Lucky them.
I got one that's about 150 pounds and about 30 years old.
Wow.
A big male, probably.
He's huge. Yeah, he's a male.
Yeah.
My 25-year-old tortoises are only like 20 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, when this guy gets out, I got to go get the tractor.
Yeah. Do they burrow?
Yeah, bad. In fact, I didn't even realize one year. I lock them in the barn and put the heat lamp on, and we don't usually. I don't check on them very much over the winter. They don't move. So, but I guess during that winter, he decided it was a burrowing winter, and he dug a trench that was probably about 35 feet long, and it went down a good 6-8 feet deep. And the only reason we found it is we ended up having that torrential rain. I don't know if you guys remember when I went through that, and it collapsed. And I was like, what the heck? I looked out my window and saw this big hole in the ground, and I could not figure out what it was. And he was in the bottom of it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they get stuck when that happens.
He's a force to be reckoned with. You do not he does not stop. He can push most things out of his way. We used to try to keep him up here around the house because I thought it was kind of cool. But after spending many months chasing my lawn furniture around, I decided it probably wasn't a good idea. You'd come home and the patio table would be scooting across the front yard, because he'd try to go underneath it. He'd get hung up on his shell, and then he would drag it with him everywhere he went.
Bulldozers.
Yeah, they're pretty intense.
Tanks.
Pretty cool though too to have people that come by. Like I have people that come by on the road and they stop all the time and ask if they can pet and feed them. They're definitely an attention getter.
If you can give them what they need and commit to them, they are really, really cool animals.
Yeah.
If you can't, man, they can do some damage and cause a lot of frustration.
They ended up down and they have their own corral.
Nice.
And it's huge. It's 40 by 25. And then they have a giant barn in the middle of it. And then they all have separate little dog houses. I picked up people are throwing away their doghouse. I went and picked them up, and it's pretty amazing how they all pick one doghouse, and they'll all use the same one. It's not like
That's
cool.
Let's be clear, James. It's 40 by 25 feet, right? Not inches.
Yes, 40 feet by yes.
Because the one wouldn't even fit in a 40 by 25.
No. There's so much room in this pen that it takes them a half a day to get across it. No, I'm kidding.
They do have an Aldabra tortoise that I know that the guy from what is it? Gave to up to the Reptiles. What? I'm losing all my
Reptarium. The Reptarium.
Reptarium has an Aldabra tortoise from what is it?
Hall of Fame something.
Yeah, Hall of Fame reptiles. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You knew exactly what I was trying to say.
Yes, I did.
But yes,
I'm here for you, Sean.
Yeah, that's good. I had a migraine or a little bit. I still have a little bit, but I had one real bad today. So I'm losing a little bit of the brain there. But there you go.
Yeah, and the Aldabra is an interesting tortoise. They're not endangered. They're not listed under the U.S. Endangered Species Act like the Galapagos tortoise. So the Aldabras are fair game, to trade throughout North America, throughout the U.S., but they get gigantic. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know what's going to happen with all of those tortoises in 50 years. But man, they are cool. They are cool.
So is Legacy open now? I heard it's still.
It's not open.
They're still working on it.
Yeah, I watch the videos every day.
They said they were going to work. They were going to open it this year, but I think maybe next year.
Well, no, they're going to do
grand opening.
No, well they're gonna do what's the thing that Bill goes to, Repticon or
yeah.
Oh yeah. It's going to be up there, right?
Yeah. So I figure they will be done this summer for that.
Yeah, because they said they were going to do it the same month he wanted to have the 10-year anniversary of his
Animal Con. That's what it's called.
Animal Con, but the 10-year anniversary of Bill's
yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Reptile Room.
Yeah, that's in Utah.
That's in Utah.
Right. At Clint's, yes.
Yeah, it's at Clint's.
Yes. Why can't I think of Bill's reptile thing name?
Chameleon Academy.
Chameleon Academy, yes.
Yeah. What? You couldn't think of Chameleon Academy?
It's just.
I told you I had a terrible migraine. I'm lucky. I was.
Oh my goodness! I am so telling on you.
At 3:30, I was going to cancel this, but I took a nap. Or 4 o'clock. What was it? It was after 4. I was working till 5. At 5 o'clock, I was going to take a nap and cancel this, but
in Sean's brain, in mine too, when Bill Strand creates a channel called the Bill Strand Channel, the Chameleon Academy is dead. It's all about Bill Strand now. He hasn't posted anything on that channel in this year or much. So I'm glad he's back to doing the Chameleon Academy podcast and the audio, because I love listening to it on my long commute. And Sean, my big announcement, I've mentioned this.
Okay.
I am going to China in May for 17 days. So
wow.
I'm super excited about that. We'll be studying plants, not reptiles, but there are some reptiles in
reptiles that might be laying in plants or something.
Yeah. What we're not going to like southern China where all the really cool stuff is for reptiles, but there's lizards and snakes and things like that. So
what kind of cookies are we talking about there, Liza?
I know. Talking cookies. I can always be coached doing something with cookies.
Yes, my wife makes some of the most tremendous cookies. She adapts them to make them more healthy. So, and they're awesome. So she adapted peanut butter cookies
that are slathered in lots of butter and sugar.
Butter and sugar are okay, especially if you eat the sugar that's not the highly refined sugar.
Yeah,
that's like a browner sugar. It's not brown, but
that's all they had in Madagascar was it was heavily granulated brown sugar.
There you go.
Interesting.
And, in the United States, they take sugar, they bleach it out to white, and then they add brown back in.
That's funny.
But in other countries, it's just the unrefined sugar. So that's a difference. If you go to France or Italy, all the ingredients for their desserts are real awesome. Now, if you go to anywhere like England, it's second only to the United States in terribleness. But there you go. That's my 2 cents from the medical perspective tonight. So there you go. That's where Tom's going, just so we can put it in there. How he's managing
some of the places.
It's the Jennifer just stopped by to say it's the flour that's the ingredient. She truly she doesn't use flour. We use buckwheat.
Buckwheat is in the smartweed family, so it's not a grass at all, right?
Right. No, it's not. It's not. It's not flour. It's not weed. It's
exactly. It's a smartweed.
Yes. We used to use Himalayan tertiary buckwheat. That's
Whoa.
I got that. Because the reason behind that was because it was really it had a hard time growing until we realized that the guy who was selling the Himalayan tertiary buckwheat had brought it over to the United States and was growing it here. So it's like so it wasn't growing in the Himalayas anymore. So it didn't have that same epigenomics type thing. So it was like, oh, well, then we're just going to get our buckwheat right next door to that. So there you go. But no, it makes everything great. I get pancakes with buckwheat and cookies, peanut butter cookies, chocolate chip cookies. She adapted the Toll House recipe, everything like that. Nice. They're incredible, and you don't feel sick afterwards. So it's. But after you have to eat good quality stuff for a long time not to actually start to feel ill from eating it. So there you go. Right. All right, no more about me. But
oh, I can't give out my email address to Liza. I put my email address in the comments and it deleted it. It said, you can't do that.
Okay. All right.
Yes, you can send me some, send it here or send it to Instagram, 2 Turtle Top. Send me a private message on Instagram or something.
It's a word, 2 turtle, right? It's not the numbers, which I always use to shorten it. So there you go.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, I call you 3T sometimes because it's 2 Turtle Tom.
T. Yep. Anyway, you want it, okay. Yep. Perfect.
She's going to email me.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm allowed to give her your email address. Okay. There you go.
Yep.
Actually, I don't even know if I have it. So you need to send me something to me. In one of my many email addresses.
I'm sure you have it.
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Yeah. HiramTom@gmail.com.
All right. All right. So
that's what's up.
This local pet store.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those, James?
No. We literally have no pet stores left here except for PetSmart and Petco.
Yeah. We have Scales and Tails of Ohio, which had 2 stores, but it's down back to 1 store again. But they're like an international shipping, right? Like they get things from other places and they ship them throughout the United States. They're an importer with a store on the side, kind of like check these cool things out and buy from us online. So it's really not, they have a few, it's in Lakewood, Ohio. They have a few, which is nearby me. They're near the lake, obviously, because of the name, but they have a few goods and what have you, but it's really just pets.
Reptiles. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a long way away from me though. So
yeah, I'm sure.
It was like 40 minutes.
I think the mom and pop pet store was the best thing on planet Earth. It was a miniature zoo and you could buy all the crap that was in the zoo.
But they kept it like the older zoos, and they were, and when the people started coming in and selling the goods, the dry goods and the other things for dirt cheap, that took away all their profit, so they couldn't sell all this stuff. So kind of like Home Depot and Lowe's and all those other things, the mom and pop
hardware stores. We still got a couple of good ones here. We got one where the building's literally leaning sideways, and if you drop a socket on the floor, it rolls across the floor towards the front door. It's called Hewitt's, and they have stuff in there that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
And that store, I don't think will ever close. It's more popular than Home Depot and Lowe's put together. And you can order through it, and it's just a good old farm feeling when you walk in the door. But as far as the pet shops go, I just miss that feeling of it was neat to go. I would literally. There was one by our house that we would stop in at least once a week just to see if they got anything new, And
it was cool because it was a zoo you could go to that you could go home with something.
Right. Exactly. That's how we got into the chameleons. My wife saw some Jacksons sitting on the counter at the register. And she's like, "What about these?" And I'm like, "What about them?" And I was appeasing her, and I was, "Yeah, okay, let's get them." And that changed my whole world, and it was a mom and pop store that we got them at. Then it became the chameleon hunt, and back in those days, you could pretty much find anything. Pet stores had every kind of species you could think of.
Yep. I remember it. I didn't know what they were at all. And often the store really didn't either.
Yeah, they didn't know how to take care of them, but they had them. We called them the 6-month pet.
Yeah.
Because after
I remember those days.
So we were collectors, not necessarily, there was no breeding going on or anything like that. It was, got to keep them for 6-8 months and they died.
Iguanas are what changed me into big reptiles. I mean, I was a little bit into reptiles. I used to keep, a turtle or a lizard, like what they used to call chameleons, which are really anoles from Florida. But then there was this little tiny iguana in this store out in Toledo. And, 30 something years later, I have a pectinatus now, which is my quote iguana. I gave up on the iguanas because they take so much space and eat so much, and you have to really, it's kind of like a sulcata turdus.
We did the same thing.
But
bought the little baby $15 iguana, and I had him for almost 20 years.
Wow.
He grew to be about 6.5 feet long. And I neglected him one day. I was farting around in the yard, and I left the door open. He ran loose. He was just loose in the house. He was, he didn't have a cage. He had a elk head that was hanging on the wall that was too big for the room. So the head was down about eye level, and I had a bowl of food in the middle of that. And on each antler, he had a heat lamp, and he pretty much stayed on top of that thing. But I was farting around in the yard, and I left the door open and got on the phone and wasn't paying attention. And he got out the door, and I never found him. And I feel sorry for my neighbors, because one day they're going to be doing some kind of yard work and find this prehistoric skeleton in their yard. I'm sure of it.
Mikey's got a great question here in the chat, that last one. What do we think about this?
I don't think so. Because they're once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months. It's just not, you can't get the same stuff there. I just think that the big Petco, Pet Supplies Plus, everything else, shut those down because they started selling the dry goods for dirt cheap and the feeders for dirt cheap. And I think that's what happened. And I think the internet, because you can
I think the internet's what really did it too. It's things like Morph Market and places like that, where you can sit on your couch and, we've always been a matter of convenience. And, the minute I got satellite TV, we stopped going to the movies because you could watch it at home on your TV set. I'd much rather watch it here than in a theater. And I think that's what's happened with a lot of the mom and pop stores too, is that 90% of the stuff is online. Chewy, you can freaking order your food and have it here in 2 days. Amazon too. Pretty much all of our supplies we can get on Amazon. I don't choose to go there, but and my Amazon guys here, and I can order something on Monday and have it by Thursday. So little planning, and you don't even have to go shopping. And I think that did a lot of it. We didn't have a lot to do back in those days too, right, Sean? I mean, black and white TV. You kids, we played outside. We didn't have cell phones or internet. Pong was our first video game. Remember Pong?
And then what was the one with the tanks?
Yeah,
battle tanks.
It's called Combat.
Yeah,
Combat. Yes,
on the Atari 2600.
Right. Yes. I mean, that's my dad brought home a box that he got from Radio Shack, and he put it together and welded and soldered some stuff together, and that's how we got our Pong. That was our first computer. His dad building it in the garage. So
that's cool.
But it wasn't all encompassing. We spent a lot of time outside doing things outside.
It's interesting. I think there's still room for the pet shop. Ryan and I on the Let's Talk Turtles podcast, we interviewed Vanessa Costanzo, who volunteers for US Ark a lot. I think that's her last name. And she owns a pet shop called The Pet Shop in Mesa, Arizona. And she is making a go of it as a businesswoman. I think that our society has kind of lost that desire to dedicate one's life to a shop like that, right? Because those people, they were in their shop all day.
All day. Yeah, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And so I think that is part of it too. People want days off. They want their free time to do stuff. And man, there's just not many people, myself included, willing to really have that lifestyle to dedicate to that kind of, always being there.
Yeah.
To run a small business. There's no time off.
Very true.
Yeah, any business, really. I
yeah.
mean, if you're a good businessman, you're working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that plays into it. And
well, I give those kids you're talking about, I would give them all kinds of attention because they're doing something that not only did I want to do as a kid, but something that I miss. You know what I mean? And I'd be willing to do that. Anybody opened up a pet store here,
Yeah. And that's why we go there. And I'll buy stuff there. Yeah. Work-life balance.
I don't even know what that is, Nate. It was all about work. Everything work comes first and then everything else. That's how I grew up, I'm sorry.
All right, we're getting into complaining about our lives and the kids these days. So I'm going to call this a wrap today, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me.
I got more to say. I'm kidding.
I know. That's why I'm getting off the show. Before we go too negative, there we go.
Come on, don't you want to hear the old timer stories?
Nope.
All right, you guys.
All right, gentlemen.
Sorry I was late, John.
Have a good night.
Thank everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week, and I think Bill will be back, assuming that the dental surgery went well. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I did.
Bye, Sean.
All right,
Bye,
guys.
James.
Bye.
Bye-bye.